Hello, 7th grade. Today we're talking about negative exponents. And what I want to start off talking about is actually to start talking about positive exponents. We're going to do a bit of review. So we're going to review positive exponents. And when we're thinking about positive exponents, I'm going to start with an example. And my example is going to be 3 to the power of 4. What that means is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And we've got 4 3's, and we can eventually solve this out, and that's equal to 81 if we'd like to. But an easier way to write 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 is just going to be 3 to the power of 4. We've also learned that we can do some things with these. So if I have something like 3 to the power of 2 times 3 to the power of 3, it's going to equal 3 times 3 here, which is 3 to the power of 2. Times 3 times 3 times 3, which of course is 3 to the power of 3. So looking at what this does, I now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 3's, which adds up to 3 to the power of 5, which we can just find by saying 3 to the 2 times 3 to the 3 equals 3 to the 2 plus 3 equals 3 to the 5th. So all of those are the same. If we have two exponents that are multiplying each other, we can add them together. I want to look at 3 to the power of 3 divided by 3 to the power of 2 now. Another one I know we've done before. What this looks like is 3 times 3 times 3 divided by 3 times 3. And I can just go through this and cancel out some of these numbers. I have a 3 on top and on bottom. That cancels. Again, it cancels here, and what I end up with is just going to be a 3. And the other way we could write this is 3 cubed divided by 3 squared is equal to 3 to the power of 3 minus 2, equal to 3 to the first, equal to 3. So if we're dividing, we can subtract our exponents. If we are multiplying, we can add our exponents. And real quick, I want to review again. We briefly mentioned in class what happens when we get an exponent to the power of 0. So I want us to talk about how we can use a power of 0 more regularly. So if I want to get to a power of 0 using positive exponents, I could try to get to 3 to the power of 0 and say that's equal to 3 cubed, or 3 to the power of 3 minus 3. And I know my subtraction, same as division, so that's 3 cubed divided by 3 cubed. And all of these are saying the exact same thing. So now, what I can do is take 3 times 3 times 3 divided by 3 times 3 times 3. All of these cancel, which gives me just a 1. And I can do this with any number I like. So any number to the power of 0, anything to the power of 0 is going to equal 1. So we're finally at a review, and we are going to talk about some negative exponents. Finally. So looking at negative exponents, I want to find a way to figure out what a negative exponent means. So let's look at 3 to the power of negative 2. 3 to the power of negative 2. Well, I know negative 2 is the same as 0 minus 2, so I can just write this as 3 to the 0 minus 2. And then I can write that as a division problem, 3 to the power of 0 divided by 3 to the power of 2. And that gives me 1 divided by 3 squared. Or 3 to the negative 2 equals 1 over 3 squared. And this right here is a very, very important point. So what we end up finding, if we do these with a couple more examples, is that if I have anything, and I'm going to use a variable for anything, and that variable that I'm going to use will be an x. If I have anything to a negative exponent, and let's call that exponent a, it's going to be the same thing as 1 over x to the positive exponent a. So these translate the same. For here, I just substituted in 3 for x and 2 for a. But I can do this with absolutely any numbers I want. If I have, for example, 18 to the negative 5, that's going to be equal to 1 over 18 to the positive 5. Something that's kind of nice to also realize is that if I would like, I can start with 1 over 18 to the negative 5, and that's going to be equal to 18 to the positive 5 here. So basically what's happening is if we have a negative exponent, let me clean that up. If we have a negative exponent, we can just flip it to the other side of the fraction and make that positive. So anytime we see a negative exponent, that just means we can move it to the other side of a fraction and make it positive, which makes life really, really simple. I would like to check out a couple more examples. Something that we've done before is scientific notation. So let's look at scientific notation real quick. And as a review of scientific notation, we said that our first step would be to move our decimal. And we're moving our decimal so that there's one number, so one digit is to the left of our decimal point. So what that means, for an example, if I have 376, I would take my decimal and I would move it so that there was only one digit, which is the 3, to the left of my decimal point. So I'd move it there. After that, we're going to count how far it moved. Looking at this, we can say it moved 2 spots to the left, and then we're going to multiply this by 10 to the power of how far it moved. So in this case, I would say it moved once, twice over. That would be 2 spots. So I would multiply my 3.76 times 10 to the power of 2. So that's really nice for big numbers, but sometimes we want to use it for small numbers. So what happens if I have 0.000376? Well, my first step is going to be to move my decimal. So I only have one digit to the left, and that digit is going to be the 3 still. So I'm going to put my decimal right here. And then I need to count how far it moved. So I have 3.76, and it moved 1, 2, 3, 4 places. It's going to be times 10 to the 4th. Except it isn't going to be 10 to the 4th, because normally we move to the left, and this time we moved to the right. So if you move to the right, that's going to be a negative number. So really we should be counting down. We have -1, -2, -3, -4. So this is going to be the same thing as 3.76 times 10 to the -4th power. And that's most of what we're going to be using from this lesson in class. So as a quick review, what we went over today was exponents, especially multiplying and dividing them. After that, we looked at a 0 exponent, and we looked at negative exponents. And then we looked at one possible application of negative exponents, which would be scientific notation for small things. For small numbers. And that's what we talked about in this video. If you have any questions about that, I would love to hear them in class. I will see you all tomorrow.